What's happening, my people? You hear your boy Jordan GK back with another reaction video, man. Hey, we are back with some more Jordan Peterson, guys. I'm probably gonna do some music after this, and then I'm gonna probably try and dig deep into some movie reactions, man. Let me know what kind of movies you want to see from me. You know, whether it's action, comedy, animation. Do let me know in the comment section, guys. This is obviously, you know, Jordan Peterson, our clinical psychologist, back at it again. This is him debating about the gender pay gap. I have no idea what to expect here. So me and you, the audience, yes, we are going to have a little listen, have a little sit back and see what is going on here. Guys, before we start this video, make sure you give it a like, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification. Turn on that notification bell, guys, because what that does is it lets you know when I post a new video, okay, if you did not know that. Guys, without further ado, let's get straight into this video.
Well, you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too dominate and exclude.
Okay, sure. But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's just not true, is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
that exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest.
Right, so I don't know about this, guys. I'm not sure who to really agree with. I'm not going to disagree or agree with anyone because everybody has their own facts, their own beliefs and all that kind of stuff. But if the facts are what Jordan Peterson's saying, then you've got to believe the facts. You've got to break it down by gender, by age. You know, you've got to believe the evidence. In the UK, I must agree with the lady that, you know, that kind of pay gap, you know, it does exist. It does exist in some areas. For example, sport. Like, there is a massive pay gap within sport, like tennis and football, pretty much all over across sports that are kind of like, you know, women and men's. It's like a women and men's sport. However, it's not because men want to dominate. It's not because men are suppressing women. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with supply and demand. It's got to do with business. It's like, how many average viewers watch men's football compared to women's football? I'm sure the viewers for the men's football is a lot higher, meaning that the supply and demand for the sport is a lot higher, meaning that the money that the men receive are from fans, sponsors, and in women's football, it's not a bad thing, but there just isn't as many viewers. There isn't as many fans in women's football, meaning they're going to get less pay. They're going to be less sponsorship money going towards that. So that's how you got to break it down. You can't just be saying, like, for example, I know what she's trying to do. She's trying to kind of break Jordan Peterson down. But for those of you that, you know, look at and say, oh, but the men get paid more, men footballers get paid more, or I don't know, men basketball players, look at the stats, look at the viewership, look at how many people are actually invested into that kind of category, like sorry, not that category, that gender when it comes to the sport. Sometimes it is about the data. You have to look at the data. You can't just say, it's, you know, men are suppressing women again, men want to dominate. It's got nothing to do with that.
We break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top, because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of life. Women aren't necessarily going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying it's a fact of life.
There are multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons? Why should women be
put up with it?
content
I'm not
not
saying
to
that
get
they
to the
should
top?
put up with it. I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong.
Yeah.
And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that.
That's completely
the
wrong.
multivariate analysis have been done. So
Well,
I can give you an
You
example.
keep on talking about
Wait a second.
multivariate analysis.
Let me give you an example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists.
No, the 9% is between men and women, but that's not because of sex. It's not because he's a man and she's a woman. It's got nothing to do with
But
that.
it exists. Now,
Yeah, but
if
you
you're a
have to say
woman,
why
that
it
seems
exists.
pretty unfair.
You
Oh,
have to say why it exists.
sorry.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Not necessarily.
and on
not.
average you're getting paid 9% less than a man, that's not fair, is it?
But what do you want us to do about that? What do you want men to do? It's one of those things where it just is what it is. Like, the not 100%, the 9% gap is completely true. Like, I agree with that. I do agree there is a gap in, not the market, but there is a gap between men and women when it comes to certain jobs, when it comes to certain things. Like, it's not everything. There are more nurses, let me say that because there are men nurses as well. There are more, I would say, primary school teachers that are women than there are men. Why is that? Because of their nature, their caring nature, their willingness to look after children. All that just comes down to nature. Men aren't so interested in that. Men are more interested in the financial market. They're more interested in business. Not to say that women aren't, but there's just more of that, and it's got nothing to do with sex. And I know for a fact she knows that, but she's just trying to break him down. But if that is her mindset, it's completely wrong.
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization. Some
It's
women
not
are
a
not more
generalization.
agreeable than
Yes,
men.
that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
Yeah.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need about
answer-
another 20, you need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to
Did he?
women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise. Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
so the pay gap exists, you accept that. But you're saying, the pay gap between men and women exists, but you're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's
make
one
them-
of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons.
Right.
So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've
Wouldn't
done
that be
that.
a fairer
I've done
way
that
of proceeding?
many, many times in my career.
And they
I've
just don't.
counseled. Oh, they do it all the time. You can. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression, and maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period, teaching
you
them how to
celebrate that?
negotiate. Of course.
So
Why wouldn't he?
do you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely?
It
Because
would
that's all
depend.
the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the disappearance of it was measured.
And you're
These
saying
things
if
you
it's at the
can't- you
cost
can't-
of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So,
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
no, because it might interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to do.
Like having children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why
Wow.
shouldn't women have the right to choose
You
not to,
do.
or the right to choose those
Oh my God. Is this lady serious? Is she serious? Why is she saying, why don't women don't have... You have every right to do what you want to do. No one is saying you don't have the right to do it. Let me tell you something, yeah. Going back 50, 60 years ago, this whole conversation would be different. Like, I 100% agree. Like, back in the day, there were certain things women can't, like, they didn't have the rights to do anything, like going to universities and all that. I completely agree. That was wrong. But now, you can't say that women don't have rights to do what they want to do. Like, they have every right to go for that high paying job. They have every single right. I just don't. I think she's just trying to dig it, and she's trying to. I don't
They
know.
do. They can. Yeah, that's fine.
But you're saying that makes them unhappy, by and large.
I'm saying no, I'm not saying that. And I actually haven't said that so far.
You're saying it makes them miserable.
No, I
at the
said that
beginning.
what was
No, you
making them
didn't.
miserable was having weak partners. That makes them miserable.
Right.
I would say that many women around the
This
age of,
woman's
I
funny,
would say
man.
between 28 and 32 have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also
Right.
partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35, because otherwise the options start
Right.
to run out. And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I
Wow.
take issue with the idea of the
Wow.
typical woman, because, you know, all women are different. And that's what I want to
Yeah.
just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
You
they're
say,
different in some ways and the same in others.
okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children.
Oh,
And
yes.
you talk to one of your YouTube interviews
course they
about
do.
crazy harpy sisters. So, simple question. Is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
It depends on what you mean by equality. You know,
Being
if you
treated
mean that
fairly,
men and women
getting
are
the same opportunities?
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in
Yeah.
Western culture already. But we
Yeah.
can
But they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise, why
depends.
would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at
easy.
length?
It's easy to
Why are
answer
women
that
at the
question.
BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well, let's-
That's not fair,
Well,
is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one. There's only
7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay. Well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it? I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of
there's
money.
a
It's an
certain-
interesting
There's a
job.
certain
You know?
number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career. So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent. They're usually very, very conscientious. They're very driven. They're very high energy. They're very healthy. And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, nonstop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
Well, I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And
Yeah.
so I work
So you
for...
don't
And this actually. Let's get through it. Let's get to the end. Let's
think
get to
there
the
are
end.
barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top
Oh,
of
there
those
are some
companies?
barriers, yeah, like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
Yeah.
So let me
It's
come back to my
absolute
question.
all-out warfare.
Is gender equality a myth?
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Is gender equality desirable?
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia.
Wow.
Because in
Yeah.
What do you mean
Scandinavia,
by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable.
well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it of their own accord. We've
Yeah.
already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1
So-
female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme, and approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the
Yeah.
societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender
Do you know what's
equality.
crazy? Yeah. If you were to do a test and you had 20 women and 20 men, and that's so true. I see. The thing is, yeah, if you were to say those 20 women would all want to be engineers today, I bet you half of them probably would, because if you get into the engineering role, there's a lot of money, but there's a lot of money in nursing. But the engineering role, I mean, the money you can earn from being an engineer is ridiculous. Like, it's just scales. But you have to be realistic. Like if you had 20 men, 20, the men will go for the engineering because it's deemed to be the more manly thing to do. And yet again, people will argue, well, no, that's not true. A woman could, 100% of women could do that. But women naturally are more caring. They like looking after, they're more supportive than men. So what would they'd rather go into the nursing because that's what's required of them. Engineering is a whole different ball game. A whole different ball game. It relates to men more than women. But the argument is, and this is where not just all women, because there are men that agree with, you know, with the gender pay gap as well. They on that side is that it's about sex. It's about men suppressing women, not being able to give them the freedom to become an engineer. It's like, bro, no one has said you can't become an engineer because you're a woman. That's free. It's down to free choice and what you want to do. Like, and with someone like Jordan Peterson, you cannot argue against. He's a clinical psychologist. Like, he is a doctor. Like, he reads data for a living. Like, he looks at data for a living. Like, you can't argue against him. So, and I know this woman, like, I know she's clever. She's a very, very clever. Otherwise she wouldn't be in the position she's in. But some of the things she's saying is, so you're saying it's going to make women depressed. He's not saying that. He is not saying that. He's saying that there's a free choice, but women, you know, tend to go for a more stress-free job because they want to have a better life. That's not because of men want to oppress women. That's their free choice, and that's just in their nature. That's what the guy is trying to say. But yeah, people get it twisted, I guess.
The purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny. But if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
It ain't going to happen. You know she's British, man.
So you're saying give people equality of opportunity, that's fine.
It's not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really saying.
It depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine.
Wow.
In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many disciplines, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
So
let me put something else to you from the book. You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
Well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
So
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
That's true. She is hilarious. She's literally putting words into his mouth. Oh,
Don't believe in equal pay.
No. Well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
So
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Because a lot of people listening to you will just say, I mean, are we going back to the dark
That's
ages
because they're actually
here?
not listening.
I'm
They're just
listening very
projecting
carefully,
what
and
they
I'm
think.
hearing you basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make it on equal terms.
Not
Equal
saying that.
outcomes is how you defined it.
No, I
If
didn't
I
say
was
that.
a young
I said
woman
that
watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls and give
didn't
up
say
trying
that.
at school because I'm
Oh, I
not
love
going to
this
get the
woman,
top
bro.
job I want. Because
said
there's
that
someone sitting there saying it's not possible.
I
it's
love
not
this
desirable,
woman,
it's
man.
going to make
outcomes
you
aren't
miserable.
desirable. That's what I said. It's a
Yeah,
bad
it's not
social
desirable.
goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has
What?
been in their way for centuries, and that's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I really
The
think that's-
patriarchal system
I really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly.
Wow.
I think that's silly. I really do. I mean, look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have
How do
battled
you
quite
manage
hard to get where I've got
Exactly.
to.
Good
So
for
that's
you.
okay. Battling is good. This is all
It's
about the fight.
inevitable.
But you talk about men
Why
fighting. I mean, let me just put another thing to you from the book.
Why
You're
wouldn't
saying
you have to
real.
battle for a high-quality position?
Well,
Yeah.
I notice in your book you talk about real conversations between men containing, quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Well, you
it's
just said
rather
that I've
unfortunate.
fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but
What does that make me?
well,
a
I
sort of
don't
proxy
imagine.
man or
I
something?
don't imagine that you've. Yeah, to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right.
But
I've noticed that
successful-
actually in this conversation.
At least
And I'm sure it served your career well.
Successful women, though,
Mm-hmm.
basically have to wear the trousers, in your view. They have to sort of become men to succeed, is what you're saying.
No.
Well, if they're going
I've had to fight to succeed,
if they're
therefore
gonna-
I'm...
Become men. What? This is where I don't understand it. It's like women have to become men in order to sustain, not sustain, attain that high-paying job or whatever it is, or to become successful. It's like you don't have to become a man. Like there are just certain traits that men have. It doesn't mean you have to become a man. Maybe just adapt the traits. And that's not to say the traits are a man's thing. They're just traits. Like to become successful in whatever it is you do, or to get that high paying job, like, or to get to the top, like, you have to be determined. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to believe. You have to be intelligent. You have to think outside the box. You have to be different to your competitors. You have to, and the main thing is sacrifice. It's like when there's children, and as he said earlier on in this video, women are more vulnerable when they have children because you can't sacrifice all of that time when you have kids. It's like no wonder why you see men being able to sacrifice everything, and especially the men that aren't in relationships and don't have children to look after and kind of support. Like it's easier for us, and that's not because men are dominant. It's nothing to do with that. It's just the fact women tend to have children, some earlier than others, and that prevents them from actually getting to where they want it to be. And it's like, that's not a man's problem. Like, that's your problem. No, it's both of their problem for having children. But, it's almost like the women had the kids, and it always fends off that. And it's like, I think she's just definitely putting words into his mouth, man. Like, at the end of the day, if you're a woman out there, you're a girl out there, you want to get to the top, you can do it. Like, there is no obstacles in your way. Like, you just need the traits. You just need to be determined, willing to sacrifice everything. And that might be not having kids, not getting into a relationship. And that's exactly what he's saying. Like, he's speaking around that. Like, that's exactly what he's trying to, that is his point. It's like, are you willing to do all those things? Like, if you're not, then it's going to be very hard for you to compete with the men because the men don't really have those kind of responsibilities. And that's not our problem. That's just the way it is.
Compete against men, certainly masculine traits are going to be helpful. I mean, one of the things I do in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting with...
And that's the thing. He says masculine traits, but then I know women. I've known girls that have those traits. So would I call it masculine traits? I don't know. That's where it's a bit, Jordan, you can't... Because I've known girls that have those traits, and it's like, well, they're not male. So, that's... When it comes to like masculine, feminine trait, like it's all a bit 50-50 because like I just said, like I know girls that have more of those determination, successful traits that apparently men are meant to have more than a man has. Like I've known guys that don't have any of those traits. I know guys that just, want to have a nice life. They're relaxed. They're chilled back. They're not pushing for that. Like, they're not pushing for that higher paying. They're very comfortable. Like, so that's where it kind of gets a little bit put up in the air. But yeah.
Women who are trying to advance their careers is to teach them how to negotiate and to be able to say no and to not be easily pushed around and to be formidable. And you need to, if you're going to be successful, you need to be smart, conscientious, and tough.
Well, here's a radical idea. Why don't the bosses,
smart, conscientious,
the
and
male
tough.
bosses, shall we say, adopt some female traits so that women don't have to fight and get their sharp elbows out for the pay rises? It's just accepted if they're doing the same job, they get the same pay.
Well, I would say partly because it's not so easy to determine what constitutes the same job.
But that's because, arguably,
yeah,
there are still men dominating our industries, our society, and therefore they've dictated the terms for so long that women have to battle to be like the men.
No, it's not true. It's not true. So, for
Where's the
example,
evidence?
well, I can give you an example very quickly. So I worked with women who worked in high-powered law firms in Canada for about 15 years, and they were as competent and put together as anybody you would ever meet. And we were trying to figure out how to further their careers. And there was a huge debate in Canadian society at that point that was basically ran along the same lines as your argument, is that if the law firms didn't use these masculine criteria, then perhaps women would do better. But the market sets the damn game. It's like...
And the market is dominated by men.
No, it's
No, it's not. It's dominated by women. The market is dominated by women. There we go. Back yourself up. Know your facts.
It's not. The market is dominated by women. They make 80% of the consumer decisions. That's not the case at all.
If you're talking
80%.
about people who stay at home looking after children, by and large, they are still women. So they're going out doing the shopping. But that is changing.
They make all the
what I
consumer
want to ask
decisions.
you. Okay, so
The
what I want
market
to
is
ask you-
driven by
okay.
women, not men.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you're a lawyer
And they
in
still
Canada...
pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven, that men, you buy a blue bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
It's partly because men are less agreeable. Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits. Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have
They
been
don't predict
a
success.
banking crisis.
They
if
don't
that
predict
happened.
success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And
So
so
you're
does
saying
high
that-
negative emotion.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that
Oh.
female traits
She
don't
never
predict success.
But I didn't say that
Intelligence and
intelligence wasn't. I didn't say that
do.
intelligence and conscientiousness
Well, you were saying that
weren't
intelligence
female
and
traits.
conscientiousness by implication are not female traits.
No,
I mean, that's
no,
very
he didn't.
dangerous.
He
I'm
didn't.
not
He
saying
never
that
said
at all.
that.
Are women less
There's-
intelligent than men, by and
No,
large?
no, they're not. No, the data on that's pretty clear. The average IQ for a woman and the average IQ for a man is identical. There is some debate about the flatness of the distribution, which is something that James Damore pointed out, for example, in his memo, but there's no difference at all in general cognitive ability. There's no difference to speak of in conscientiousness. Women are a bit more orderly than men, and men are a little bit more industrious than women, but the difference isn't big. But
know
that
plenty of-
averages into
Plenty of men
conscientiousness.
who aren't
Right.
necessarily as
Well, of
industrious.
course,
But we'll,
these are-
we'll,
okay.
we'll
But no,
female
but you
traits,
asked me
though,
a
why
question.
are they not...
Feminine traits,
Why
let's
are they
say.
not desirable at the top of... Feminine traits, why
They
are they not
are.
desirable at the top of
It's hard to say. I'm just laying out the empirical evidence. Like we know the traits that predict success.
But we also know, because companies by and large have not been dominated by women over the centuries, we have nothing to compare it to. It's an experiment.
True, and it could be the case that if companies modified their behavior and became more feminine, that they would be successful. But
You
there's
seem
no
doubtful about
evidence
that.
for it. I'm not neither doubtful nor non-doubtful. There's no
So
evidence
why
for
not
it.
give it a go, as the
Because
radical
the evidence
feminists would
suggests,
say?
well, it's fine. If someone wants to start a company and make it more feminine and compassionate, let's say, and caring in its overall orientation towards its workers and towards the marketplace, then that's a perfectly reasonable experiment to run.
Yeah.
My point is that there is no evidence that those traits predict success in the workplace.
Right.
And there's
Because it's
this
never
evidence
been
is,
tried.
well, that's not really the case. Women have been in the workplace for what, at least ever since I've been around. The representation of women in the workplace has been about 50%. So we've run the experiment for a fairly reasonable period of time, but not, certainly not for centuries.
Wow. What a video, man. What a video. Guys, just a little debrief, man. Like, let me tell you something. With Jordan Peterson, just quickly, like, he's obviously a very intelligent man. Not everyone's going to agree with him. People, do you know what? Like, I do agree with him with most of the things he comes out with. And that's not because he's a man. Like, it's because he always has evidence. He always has data to relate to. Like, he's not just coming out with these slurs and with these, irradical things. Like, he has the data to back it up. And that's why I stand on his side more. Oh, bloody hell, sorry. I stand on his side more often because he has that. Whereas the person that is debating with him doesn't really have that. It's like you don't actually have the data. Like when she said the market is dominated by men, it's like, it's not. He said 80% of women make the consumer decisions. Like, you have to have data to back it up. You can't just come out with things, that's dominated by. It's like, well, you don't have any evidence to back that up. However, when it comes to like being successful and the pay gap and all that kind of stuff, like, let me tell you something. Men are you know, similar to women in some ways, but in all different. Like men are a specific species, women are a specific species. Like they are two different species. Let's just say that, right? So we're gonna have, as a man, I'm gonna have different traits. As a woman, you're gonna have different traits. Like, and that's not to say that men are better or men are more this or all that. Like, it's got nothing to do with that. Like, and especially in this day and age, like in Western culture, there is no way you can say that there isn't equality. There isn't. There isn't kind of this whole kind of agenda of men are more dominant. It's got no. That is a complete lie. There are women that are getting paid more money than men. There are women that are, they start in their own businesses. They have these massive enterprises now. Like, men work for women. If you go to like construction sites as well, like I've heard and I've seen it and I've met people. There are women that are site operators, meaning that they look after the site, they make sure everything, and men are working under women. So it's like that argument's gone. It's like that argument going back 50 odd years ago, that argument's gone now. Like you, you can't keep arguing that men are in this, men and women are in this battle. It's not a battle. It's not a battle at all. And in this video, Jordan Peterson breaks down about the traits. It's like men have certain traits that women don't. Women have certain traits men don't. That's not to say that women can't open up a business or start or make it throughout their career if they don't have any male traits. He's not saying that. He said try it, but there's no evidence to back that. There is no proof that that's kind of been done. He is saying that men have traits that are significant in the business world, and you pretty much have to have them in order to get to the top. That is not say he is not saying that men want to dominate. Men are suppressing women because we have these traits. It's not that at all. But women can for sure adapt those traits. I know women, because I used to coach a ladies football team. Like I know women in that team that have those traits. They have, they're a lot more bolder. They're a lot more driven. They're a lot more, should I say, I don't know, determined. Let's use that basic term, like determined, right? So I've met women that have those traits. Okay, that's not to say that they're men. They just have the traits, and it's the same as men. Like I have female traits. Like I'm very caring. I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional person. Not to say that women are all emotional. I'm not saying that, but I tend to care a lot more. I'm a lot more open with my feelings, whereas men aren't open with their feelings. Men tend to hide the feelings away and all that stuff, and they're told to man up and all this stuff. So, I have female traits too, and it's never been a battle with me. Like it's never been that. And I've always believed that this world would be done for if it weren't for women. Like women, for me, are the best thing to ever happen. Like honestly, women are so powerful. They're intelligent. Like to be able to produce another being within inside them and to give birth. Like, do you know how much strength and power that takes? Like, do you know how fascinating that is to watch? Like, it's unbelievable what women can do, and the capabilities are just like, scaling. Like their capabilities and what they can do are just, but it will always come down to the arguments, and it's going to come down to like the women, and not all women, but it's going to come down to the women that want to have that argument. They want to have that debate. Now, I know she was doing her job and she was trying to, break Jordan Peterson down, but it's like, he weren't saying any of the things. Like, you're just putting words into his mouth. Oh, so you're saying that women aren't this. Oh, so you're saying that women, you might as well not pack their bags and not reach the top because they don't have to. He's not saying that. He's just saying men have those traits. Women tend to not have those traits. But he's not saying that women can't adapt those traits and do it. So it's always going to be an overall ending spiral if you don't come to some kind of agreement. The pay gap, 100%, there is a pay gap, but you have to look at the data. You have to look, okay, why is there a pay gap? It's not because he's a man and she's a woman. It could be age. The man in the manager's role is 30 years old. She's 18 or she's 20. she's on an internship. I don't know what it is. The man's a business owner. The man in HQ or whatever it is, like not HQ, bloody HR, you know. And it's like I've known females that have worked for HR in the companies and they're getting paid. It's a massive scandal in my opinion, man. Like it's a massive thing, unless you like really want to like have that argument and just like you're literally taking a small percentage, very very small percentage of men, and you're basing that argument on that. You're basing that small percentage of highly successful men, and you're saying that men are this, men are that, and that's not true. It's not true at all. But guys, that was my little debrief debate there. That was my kind of like opinion on it. Sorry. Let me know what you thought of the video. Give me your opinions, give me your thoughts, and hey, I'm not afraid to take the heat. I'm not afraid to, because you know we're all entitled to our own opinions and our own thoughts and stuff like that. But let me know what you thought of the video itself. Do you agree with Jordan Peterson? Do you not? I'm not too sure what the lady's name was, but hey, intelligent lady as well. Do you agree with some of her points? Some of the things she was saying, do you agree with? Let me know in the comment section. If you want another like kind of like debatable video like this, and they're quite interesting, they're quite entertaining, let me know in the comment section, guys. But before you leave, make sure you give this video a like as well, guys. Hit that like button. If you didn't like it, hey, the only other thing is dislike. So, you know, do what you need to do. Guys, you here with your boy Jordan GK. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.